You're listening to The Jacob Volk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobVolk. Here he is, Jacob Volk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Volk Show. I am Jacob Volk, and I have to start this show off by recapping Marlins Braves and the incredible performance that Ian Anderson had. This kid has never pitched in the majors before this season, and he started his postseason career by pitching 11 2/3 innings of shutout baseball. I don't care what the circumstances are, that's really impressive. And in those 11 2/3, he's only given up 5 hits and 3 walks. He has 17 strikeouts. This kid is unreal. This kid's going to be a great player for a really, really long time. And it was kind of funny when Snitker came out to pull him. I'm screaming at the TV, "No, don't pull him, let him finish the inning." And O'Day nearly blew it. He gave up a walk, but O'Day got the ground out afterwards from Matt Joyce. So, hey, all's well that ends well. After that, the bullpen shut the door. And what a great play by Nick Markakis in the 8th inning. Corey Dickerson is on first at this point. John Birdie, it's a fly ball into right field that Markakis may have a chance at. He may not. Dickerson decides to run like halfway between first and second. And Markakis comes up firing. He throws a strike to second, and Dickerson's out on the force out. That changed the whole game right there. Instead of it being first and second, nobody out, it was runner on first, 1 out. At the end of the day, the Braves are just the better team. The Marlins were a good story. Their roster gets decimated by the coronavirus. They scrounge out a 60-game season. They finish with the second best record in the NL East. They make the playoffs. 2 games over 500. But they're just not as good as the Braves. It's just that simple. Pablo Lopez pitched well. Good young pitcher. But he made 2 really bad pitches to d'Arnaud and Swanson. And sometimes that's all it takes. Great job by these Braves pitchers. And at the end of the day, the Marlins are just inferior to the Braves. That's all this boils down to. And there isn't a lot of shame in losing to a superior team. Moving on now to the craziest game that happened yesterday. Athletics-Astros. This game was topsy-turvy, ebb and flow. I'm glad that I have no rooting interest in this series. If I was a fan of one of those 2 teams, or if I was rooting for one of those 2 teams, my heart would have exploded. The Athletics are up 4-2, headed into the bottom of the 5th. The Astros explode for 5 runs. They make it 7-4. And everyone was thinking, alright, that's it, forget about it, the series is going to be over. I know that's what I was thinking. I didn't foresee the Astros bullpen blowing it. I mean, I should have, because Josh James and Brooks Raley really aren't that good. By the way, I saw some people getting on Baker for how he managed this game and bringing in James and Raley. They wanted someone else. There was no one else to bring in. Realize, this is the third game of the series, no off days. The big guns had been used already. Presley had been used. Paredes had been used. You want to tell me that they should have been used on a third straight day? You can make that argument, but then if they blow it, the discussion is, why did Baker go to these tired arms rather than the fresh arms of James and Raley? Again, they're not great pitchers, but I did think they gave the Astros a better chance of winning that game than the other tired arms in that bullpen. I mean, that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Pinder hits the big home run off of James. Raley gives up 2 manufactured runs. The Astros had their chances. Bottom of the 8th. Runners on first and second, nobody out. They didn't drive a runner in. They even had second and third, 2 out. Josh Reddick at the plate. He couldn't get it done. So look, good win for the Athletics. Really gutsy win. The fact that Bob Melvin left Liam Hendriks in that long was really surprising to me. I know why he did it, because he was the only athletic pitcher that could get these guys out. But especially after that rocky 8th, I thought we'd see someone else in the 9th. But Hendriks stayed in there, and he pitched well. 3 innings of shutout baseball out of the pen when he only gives up 1 hit and 4 strikeouts. That's really good. Like I said, gutsy win, but the Astros are going to have their big guns out of the bullpen available today. I don't like the Athletics' chances. Granted, I didn't like their chances before the game started yesterday, but today, I really don't like their chances. Moving on now to Rays Yankees. And this is a tough game to get a handle on. There are 2 big arguments to break down. The first one is that Tanaka imploded in this game. So what does that mean for his Yankees' future? And this is why he didn't start Game 2. Well, first up, you have no idea how Tanaka would have pitched in Game 2. There's no doubt in my mind that Tanaka pitching Game 2 gives the Yankees a better chance of winning than pulling Davy Garcia after 1 inning and then watching J. Happ lay an egg coming out of the bullpen. I mean, we'll never know what Tanaka would have done if he pitched 2 days ago as opposed to yesterday. As for his Yankee future, he probably doesn't have one. I'll get into it a little more in the Yankees off-season preview, but the Yankees are going to have a full rotation. Cole, Severino, Herman, Montgomery, and probably Garcia or Schmidt or someone like that. Tanaka's going to want a lot of money. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Yankees let him walk. I understand you can't have too much pitching, and if Tanaka comes back, I have no problem with it. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Yankees let him walk. The other big story is the Willy Adames walk that set up the Kevin Kiermaier home run. I'll set the stage for you. It's the top of the fourth. It's a 1-1 game. Joey Wendell leads off the inning with a single. And it's a 3-2 count on Willy Adames. Tanaka throws a pitch right at the knees. Wendell is trying to steal second at this point. Higashioka comes up firing and delivers a bullet that got Wendell. The throw beat Wendell. Wendell would have been out. It would have been a strike him out, throw him out double play. Instead, Mark Carlson, the home plate umpire, called it a ball. So the throw to second is irrelevant. Runners on first and second, nobody out, and Kevin Kiermaier hits a 3-run home run. A lot of Yankees fans were screaming bloody murder after that. How do you not call that a strike? The pitch was in there. Blah, blah, blah. And according to, I think it was the Baseball Savant strike zone on MLB, the pitch was a strike. But on the TBS strike zone, the pitch was low. And on another strike zone, I think it was CBS, but I could be wrong, it was low. I mean, that was a really close pitch. To be honest with you, I didn't have a problem with it. I had more of a problem with Tanaka giving up the home run to Kiermaier than I did not getting the strike him out, throw him out. I mean, realize, Kiermaier did not have a good year this year. He had .217 with only 3 home runs. And he's not a great power hitter. He can get double-digit home runs, but he's not the kind of guy who should be going yard. What bothered me was Tanaka giving up the home run. If Tanaka gets Kiermaier out, we're not talking about this. I mean, right after the Kiermaier home run, Michael Perez grounded out and Austin Meadows grounded out. So would it have unfolded that way if Tanaka had gotten Kiermaier out? We'll never know for sure. It's a fair argument to say that it would have, but again, we'll never know for sure. But instead of getting upset at an umpire for making a call that didn't go your way on a borderline pitch, this wasn't a pitch that was, 58 feet, or a foot outside, or, behind the batter, and it gets called a strike. This was a close pitch. It could have gone either way. It really could have. I mean, just get Kiermaier out. Was the Kiermaier home run the turning point of the game? The answer is yes, but it didn't have to be. It's 4-1 at that point. How about you hit Charlie Morton? How about you hit John Curtis? How about someone other than Giancarlo Stanton comes up with a big hit for this team? How about Chad Green doesn't give up a home run to Michael Perez? The game wasn't over after the Kiermaier home run. The Yankees had their chances. They just didn't execute. Leaving Mark's house yesterday, I wasn't upset at Mark Carlson. It was a borderline call that could have gone either way. It really, really could have. If you think it's a ball, okay, fine. If you think it's a strike, okay, fine. But driving home, I was more upset at this team for giving up 8 runs. I was more upset that they just couldn't get anything going. The Yankees have marquee performers. And they're getting shown up by these schmagaggies that no one has ever heard of. That's what you should be upset about as a Yankees fan. You can get upset at Boone, Cashman, whoever you want for the Game 2 disaster. Game 3, don't get upset at Mark Carlson. Get upset at the team for not executing. The last game to talk about was probably the most exciting one. And that was Padres-Dodgers. The Dodgers go out to a 4-1 lead early. I think everyone is thinking that Kershaw is gonna mow down this Padres lineup. The Dodgers have it here. Manny Machado and Eric Hosmer hit back-to-back home runs in the 6th off Kershaw to make it a 1-run game. Great. We've got a ball game. Top of the 7th, Brusdar Graterol comes in to relieve Blake Treinen after Treinen had relieved Kershaw. Treinen got into a little bit of danger, I guess, when he hit Grisham. I mean, not really. I didn't know why he was being pulled, but... However, it almost wasn't whatever, because Fernando Tatis hit a shot off Graterol, goes to the deepest part of the ballpark, the center field wall, and Cody Bellinger makes this incredible catch. He literally took a home run away from Tatis. It's on my Twitter if you haven't seen it. It's insane. You had a former MVP robbing a future MVP. It was insane. It saved the game for the Dodgers. The Dodgers scratch out a couple runs in the bottom half of the inning. Pierce Johnson lays an egg. It's 6-3 Dodgers at this point. Kenley Jansen comes on, and everyone's thinking, that's it, good night. Jansen faltered. He allowed 2 runs to score, made it a 1-run game. Joe Kelly came on, and was ineffective. He walked Tatis and he walked Machado. Trent Grisham was already on at this point, so it's bases loaded. 2 out. Eric Hosmer at bat. Kelly bears down and gets Hosmer to ground out to Kiki Hernandez. Ball game over. Dodgers win a nail-biter 6-5. I mean, this was an incredibly exciting game. I hope you were watching it. There's not much I can say other than that. Yes, the Dodgers are a great team this year, but the Padres played them tough. They had every opportunity to win this game. They just couldn't get that last big hit. I mean, they almost did, but Bellinger and Kelly rose to the occasion. Fantastic game. Probably the best game of the playoffs so far. I understand it's on late. You may have work the next day, but if you can, stay up tonight. You may see something special. But now it's time to preview today's 4 games. I do this chronologically, so I'll start with Braves Marlins. It's going to be Kyle Wright going up against Sixto Sanchez. Wright has a great mix of pitches. He has 5 pitches that he trusts. 4-seamer, sinker, slider, changeup, curve. The biggest issue with him is he can get a little wild. He doesn't throw a lot of pitches in the zone. He does have a tendency to walk more than a few batters. Having said that, though, sometimes it works for him because if the batters swing at it, they're not getting good contact. And Wright's pitches move. He can get hitters to chase. The key for the Marlins in this game is going to be to have a disciplined approach at the plate. Don't go up there hacking. Wait for your pitch. Wright will throw balls. If you can grind out long at-bats, you're in good shape. The Marlins have a real chance to win this game because Sixto Sanchez is a million times better than Wright. I like Sanchez a lot. He's another guy who likes to nibble at the edges, but he attacks hitters more than Wright. 4 pitches that he really trusts. 4-seamer, changeup, sinker, slider. Was a very highly thought of prospect. Came to the Marlins in the JT Realmuto trade. Hits 98 on the gun, usually with his fastball. I've seen it hit 100. I've even seen it go over 100. The Marlins have the edge in this pitching matchup, and I gotta tell you, I like their chances to extend this series. Give me the Marlins today. Moving on now to Athletics Astros. The Astros have not announced a starter for this game as of when I'm recording this. It could be Greinke, it could be Christian Javier, it could be someone else. For the Astros' sake, I hope it's Greinke. So the only pitcher who I can really talk about is Frankie Montas. Montas is not afraid to go after hitters. He has 3 versions of a fastball that he likes to go to. 4-seamer, sinker, and a split finger. You know, he attacks hitters. He likes to establish the inside part of the zone. Old school pitcher. I like that. The thing is, he does have a tendency to leave balls over the plate. That's a byproduct of his approach. Sometimes you need to throw balls. Sometimes you need to try to get players to chase. Montas doesn't do that. He throws a lot of strikes, and it can come back to bite him. And I'm going to be very interested to see what these Astros hitters do against a pitcher with that approach. A guy who doesn't look to get you chasing. A guy who looks to beat you clean with his stuff. Montas can get strikeouts, but against these Astros hitters, he could have a tough time with it. Moving on now to Rays-Yankees. The Rays are going to go with a bullpen game here. Ryan Thompson is going to open the game up, and then God only knows who afterwards. At least the Rays are giving the Yankees a window to force a Game 5. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think bullpen games work in the playoffs. I think you're relying on too many things to go right. You're relying on each pitcher to have their best stuff that day. There are too many things that can go wrong. I mean, how bad would it look if the Yankees tried an opener in Game 2 and failed, and the Yankees lost tonight with an opener going up against them? That may make my head explode. But ultimately, I think the Yankees have it here. I like Montgomery. I understand his stats don't show it, but he is a good pitcher. Looked like he was going to carve out a nice role for himself as a 3 or 4 starter. He got hurt early in the 2018 season. It required Tommy John, and he struggled to regain that past form, but I've seen Montgomery be really good. He likes to attack hitters inside with his off-speed stuff, and then his four-seamer, he likes to throw high to try to get hitters to swing through it. He doesn't have great velocity, but he locates his pitches really well. You know, he'll throw 58-foot pitches and make hitters look foolish. I've seen him do it before. I like Montgomery. I just really want Boone to give him some leash. If he runs into trouble early, don't run to pull him. I don't see that working well. In a battle of the bullpens, I trust Kevin Cash more than I trust Aaron Boone. The last game to talk about is Dodgers-Padres. At the time I'm recording this, the Dodgers have not announced a starter for this game. It may have supposed to have been Dustin May, no pun intended, but he was used in Game 1. I would think it would be Julio Urias, but that's not set in stone. So the only guy I can talk about is the Padres pitcher, Adrian Morejon. Truthfully, Morejon profiles more as a reliever to me than a starter. That's not to say this is going to be an opener situation. I think Morejon is going to be allowed to pitch some innings, but I think his future in the bigs is that of a reliever and not as a starter. He really only has one great pitch, and that's his four-seamer. He's working on off-speed stuff, he's working on a curve, he's working on a slider. But if you only have 1 or 2 pitches, that's not a starter. That's a reliever. And I think the Dodgers are going to feast on this guy. It's a shame that Dinelson Lamet is unavailable. He would have been a much better option. It's a shame that Chris Paddock isn't getting this start. He would have been a better option. Morejon doesn't even have overwhelming stuff. His fastball usually tops out at like 97, 98. And even then he doesn't locate it well. It can get wild. I think this is going to be a long night in San Diego. Moving on now to a story that broke as I was editing yesterday's show. It was rumored for a while, but Adam Gase made it official yesterday. Joe Flacco will get the start on Sunday against the Cardinals, and Sam Darnold is week to week. Truthfully, I gotta tell ya, this doesn't bother me. I legitimately couldn't care any less. The only reason I'm talking about it is because some people wanted me to talk about it. A few of my friends. I just don't care. The Jets are 0-4. What difference does it make? You want to tell me that it's bad that Darnold isn't getting these reps? It's bad for his development? Who the hell cares about Sam Darnold's development? The guy's gonna be off the team next year, hopefully. Or maybe with the team as they ease Trevor Lawrence in as starter. That's still up in the air. If the Jets can get a great offer for Darnold, take it. And you sign some veteran who's going to hold his own as a starter to give Lawrence some competition. And this is a real debate that we're going to have for a long time. Even if the Jets don't end up with the first overall pick, if they end up with the second, third, fourth, whatever, the Jets have the assets to move up. They have 4 first-rounders in the next 2 years. They can move up to first overall very easily. You know, people keep talking about Sam Darnold's development. The guy's in his 3rd year. The time for development is over. You take a look at the 5 quarterbacks that were taken in the first round of 2018, Darnold's draft. They've all put it together already. With the exception of Josh Rosen. And even then, that wasn't Rosen's fault. The guy was screwed. Mayfield was able to put it together. Josh Allen was able to put it together. Lamar Jackson was able to put it together. Darnold hasn't been. This notion that the Jets need to foster an environment around Darnold that's conducive to development. If the guy has the talent, he'll succeed. The Browns had a worse environment than the Jets. Mayfield's working out. For God's sake, he had 3 head coaches in 3 years. 2 of them were Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens. You can hate Bowles and Gase all you want. They're not as bad as Jackson and Kitchens. In all seriousness, though, Flacco being benched does bring up an interesting debate. Darnold has struggled this year. If Flacco looks like Super Bowl MVP Flacco on Sunday, does he get the start week 6? You can make the argument for it. I mean, I'll tell you, there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. If Sam Darnold becomes available, maybe the Jets pull that trigger. They ride with Flacco for the rest of the year. Mike White and James Morgan as the backup and third stringer, respectively. There's an opportunity here for Flacco to convince people that he's a legitimate starting NFL quarterback. You know, it boils down to, do you want to increase Sam Darnold's value, whether it's to your team or as a trade chip, more than you want to win football games? If Flacco balls out. Something tells me Gase would go with Flacco. he has to win a lot of football games very, very quickly. If the Jets can somehow turn the season around with Flacco at the helm, Gase reestablishes himself as a quarterback whisperer. Having said that, though, that's being incredibly optimistic. The more likely scenario is Flacco does okay, not great, not terrible, and Gase has no problem going back to Darnold whenever he's 100%. Forgive me for trying to be optimistic, but it's a pretty bad state of affairs when the future franchise quarterback of my team is currently a Clemson Tiger. I'm just trying to look on the bright side of life. Very difficult as a Jets fan. But now it's time to preview tonight's NFL game, Buccaneers-Bears, a Super Bowl 52 rematch. And it's kind of funny. That game took place 2 years ago. February 4th, 2018. A little over 2.5 years later, both of those quarterbacks that started that game, Nick Foles and Tom Brady, are on different teams. Football is a crazy sport. Chris Godwin is out for the Buccaneers, but that really doesn't bother me. Tom Brady looks really, really good. Mike Evans has been great this year. 17 catches for 5 touchdowns. That's a great touchdown percentage. Scotty Miller has come out of nowhere to emerge as a reliable target for Brady. The running game is a lot better than I thought it would be. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are solid. The offensive line is fantastic. There's no weak spot on that line. Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, and Tristan Wirfs. The Buccaneers drafted these guys and developed them. And some of these guys they drafted out of small schools. Ali Marpet went to Hobart. Alex Kappa went to Humboldt State. Fantastic job by the Buccaneers in developing these guys. The defense is great. Levante David, Vita Vea, Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, and Ndamukong Suh, Antoine Winfield. We talk about their offensive playmakers. They have defensive playmakers too. They're making Todd Bowles look a lot better than he is. As for the Bears, obviously they made the move to bench Trubisky for Foles midway through week 3. Foles leads the Bears to a miraculous comeback against the Falcons, then against the Colts. He wasn't anything special, wasn't great, wasn't terrible. He has some good weapons to work with. I like David Montgomery a lot. I like Allen Robinson a lot. Obviously, he's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league, I think. Jimmy Graham is still a solid tight end. This is another offensive line that's stacked from the top down. Charles Leno, James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, Germaine Fetty, who I signed to the Jets in Madden, and Bobby Massey. They're making Foles and Trubisky look a lot better than they actually are. I mean, I think Foles is okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, he's probably a 5.75. But right now, he's looking like a 7. The Bears' defense has stepped it up this year. Obviously, Khalil Mack is Khalil Mack. But they have a great front seven besides him. Brent Urban, James Waters, Mario Edwards, Bilal Nichols, Robert Quinn, and Roy Robertson Harris. Their secondary is good, but it's not as good as their front seven. It's going to be interesting to see how Brady attacks the secondary, because he's not going to have a whole hell of a lot of time to sit in the pocket. I expect a bunch of plays designed to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Whether it's slants, out routes, anything like that. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Volk saying that at the plate, I once went 0 for July.